All right, there we go. Finally, it just took YouTube a bit to recognize the stream was coming in. I'm just going to do a real quick audio check. Should be working though. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we got a lot of errors. I left it that way at the end of the last stream. Some of them are pretty minor. Like this one just says it's inaccessible due to permissions. This is trying to get the weapons collection from the weapons handler. I probably made it private because I didn't. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I probably made it private for the new rework, but it does in fact need to remain public. So we'll just make that correction real quick. Okay. So what's next? Got a lot of errors here. I mean, like I said, I just kind of left it halfway through. That's fine. All right, so we got rid of this variable, set to 0f if you select a weapon in the next frame. What is this for? Okay, this is when it first initializes. So this workflow changed entirely to use the new prediction system, where before it was on prediction 1. So this has to be changed. I don't even think we have a replicate in here yet, do we? No, everything is RPC based. Which is what we are working on changing. We're trying to move it over to the new prediction system. All right, so I suppose I need to yeah, let's go ahead and get the replicate and the reconcile in. Worth noting, I did go ahead and update the project to the latest fishnet version, 4.4.6. Going to try and keep the project always on the latest, just so we can catch, you know, in case there's some hidden bugs or something. It's really good to have a full project to test on that is implementing all of the features or a lot of the features. It can catch a lot of things tests do not. Okay, so what do we have here? We got pulled inputs on the weapon handler. Looks like this is where I was in the middle of doing this. I think this is being used. Not being used, okay. That's fine. So I definitely remember updating this. Yeah, so we did some of this where we updated the last fire tick and so on. I talked about what all that does last stream, so I'm not going to cover that all again because it was a bit. All right, so let's go to the motor. And I'm just going to take this replicate data here for the motor. This should be under types. Oh no, this has its own thing. Okay. I'm going to actually just go ahead and copy that. So I'm going to copy both of these just to basically use them as a template just to get things moving along. I'm working on weapons, so I'm going to move it over to weapons. And we're going to just rename the files real quick. Oh, okay, where did those go? Let's... There we go. And I'm going to open these two up and Should be a weapons one. They're not. What is a weapons handler under? Yeah, it's under weapons. It's just not recognizing it. Might still be loading up project files. All right, so we have a reconcile and replicate for our weapons now. Not at all the right information, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and close out the motor. The wrong reconcile and replicates that I pulled up earlier. And let's see what I'm going to need. I'm going to need to know if firing is pressed. I'm going to need a fire tick. So let's go over here and we're going to do public precise tick fire tick. Tick a shot should be fired. Or no, sorry. Tick a shot was fired is what this is for. This is so the server can basically use this to know when the weapon was fired and roll back colliders appropriately. And okay, so we're going to need a reload in there. Obviously we're going to reload if we, it's a shooting game, we're going to need to reload eventually. And we're going to need a next weapon index as well for if we're going to change weapons. So we're going to go here, we're going to do next weapon index. Now I don't think we need all this stuff. This is all for moving. We shouldn't need this, the weapon held. That should just be synced up with the server. So let's go ahead and go over here and do fire tick, or I'm sorry, precise tick, fire tick, boolean, reload, and next weapon index equals -1. By default, we're going to say -1. That just means no value. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so setting the tick to 0 like usual at the bottom here. And we're going to do fire tick equals fire tick, reload equals reload, of course, and then next weapon index equals next weapon index. And I think I'm going to just, I'm not going to have this as an option. I'm going to have it set. All right, so we don't need an equals to this. So we got a lot of stuff in here that's from the other one. All right, so that should be it for the replicate data. Go to the reconcile data. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to need on the reconcile data yet. Probably going to need a weapon index for at the time. So it's the index of the weapon during the reconcile. And are we going to need probably not going to need reload. We're going to need more values as we go on, but it's hard to say because I'm just kind of trying to think ahead, but we'll see. This honestly isn't going to have that much going on for it because it's pretty simple. This just handles weapon switching. That's all it is. It does handle like firing shots and stuff, but we're just sending the inputs. We're not actually like doing any of the raycast logic and whatnot inside the prediction system. And we are, but we're not. It's not stuff that has to go over the network, I guess is what I'm saying. All right, so let's go down here. I'm gonna open up my motor script again real quick. I'm going to copy this. Oh, this is a long script. All right. I'm going to go back down here and I am already inheriting from tick network behavior, which means I can just basically override the tick callbacks without having to subscribe manually. All right, so let's right here, let's add in these values or that code I just copied. I'm just gonna use really generic summaries for these because kind of obvious what they do. They just, you know, they replicate and then they reconcile. But also, I don't really feel like writing super detailed ones right now. I'm just trying to get this done quickly. I know I'm scrolling through a lot. I'm just trying to catch up, basically. Get all this stuff done with. So we don't need to. Okay, so not enabled. This can occur to players out of health. Possibly a command go through after. Well, that is bad English. Possibly a command came through after. I don't think this applies anywhere anyway. It could, but I'm not 100% sure. All right, so it looks like we're going to need access to perhaps the motor or health. I think we're probably going to want to use the health to make sure that you can't do things whenever you're alive or not alive. So let's see if I actually have a reference to that right now. I do. Okay. We're going to go to if health dot. Don't think we have. I don't think the health has like a is alive option or anything of that sort. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. No, it does not. So we'll say public bool is alive, and we're going to do current health greater than 0f, or it's an int, so we'll just say 0. True if the character is alive. All right, so that should be pretty easy to do. Go back to here, and I'll actually go to the motor real quick and correct this. We're going to close out the motor here in a second. I'm not going to be jumping through all these. So this does not have a reference to health. That's fine. I can just set that real quick. This done inside first initialize, which I think is awake. Yeah. Doesn't really matter. We just need a reference to the component, and both the server and clients are going to use it, so for consistency's sake, I'm going to create a first initialize method inside this one here. Not inside help, but inside motor. It doesn't seem to have one right now. And I'm just going to call it from awake, like I do inside the weapon handler. Okay. So let's close out our motor because I don't really want to focus on that right now. All right, so we have the replicate, which is really incomplete. So we're going to do if not health dot is alive, and then we're going to return. A lot of movement stuff in this because, like I said, I took this from the motor script. Let's go ahead and delete all of this. This is all moving stuff. Okay. A lot of code gone. That's what I like. Less is more. Hey, how's it going? Grayliar? Saying that right? I think it's Gray Liar. It's not Gray Liar, is it? Oh, it could be Gray Liar. That kind of works. That rolls off the tongue too. So let's see. This is for adjusting the rotation. We don't need that. All right, so there's a couple things we want to do if we're not replaying primarily with the animator. We don't really want to update the animator during replays because that's going to add a lot of stress to the animator. And that's probably going to affect performance. We only really care about the latest values. Well, I mean, to obtain server authority and prediction and all that stuff, you do need to reconcile and replay inputs and whatnot. But for things that are graphical, you don't necessarily have to do that to stay in alignment with the server. And this is one case where we don't need to. So if we're not playing, we're going to do if data. All right, so right now it's using the motor data. I'll be using motor data. This is because they have the same names, and I'm using both of the motor reference and the weapon handler reference. So I'm just going to actually add on a prefix to these here. I'm going to do the same thing to the motor, just so there's no confusion. And we're now going to have a few more errors because I just changed that type. I didn't use the rename on purpose. I didn't want to accidentally rename the wrong ones. So I'm just going to do these quick edits here and take a quick moment. And I'm in the motor script, so I know these are for the motor datas. The motor script's going to be the only one that's actually creating the motor datas, whatnot. All right. I'm going to rename the files real quick. All right, now I'm going to go down to weapons and also rename the files. Oops, be weapon handler, reconcile data. Get rid of that. All right, back to my weapon handler. And all of the errors there are. Why does it not see that? Oh, okay, so apparently it was missing a reference. It's under the same namespace. It shouldn't have been missing. FPSLand.character.weapon. Oh, it's characters. That's right. This is my older style where it uses the plural variant. Okay. Going down. Okay. So network initialize. We're going to just. We should have like a pending weapon switch option here. I think we did that. It was. I think it was under the pulled inputs where we set it. We did a check reload. We did a check weapon switch. Don't need this anymore. This was where we selected a weapon when we first respawn or spawned in. The check weapon state was called, I believe, an update. Yeah. And then it would essentially check to choose the first weapon if there was a value to do that. No longer used. So let's go down to try numeric weapon state switch. Basically does some checks to make sure the weapon index is valid. And that's just by using the scroll wheel and like your numeric keys 1 through 4 or 5, whatever. All right, so this is real-time checking where it basically when I say real-time checking, I mean this has done an update, and it basically will update the animator and whatnot per frame. But we're switching to the tick system, and while this is okay, I suppose, because this is all local, the only thing we really need to do on tick is send the results. Separating this code from outside the replicate just kind of makes things more complicated. Like I said, this was the first version of prediction. It changed a lot since. I think we can actually get around this a bit. Yeah, this is a lot of code to take apart. Like I said in one of the first videos, this is going to be a full rework. It's going to make things a lot easier to follow, but also a lot more to change. On death, remove weapons. All right, so let's see. We got first. We're gonna do if data dot. Oh, it's still using the wrong data. How is that possible? If data dot. Did I rename the wrong one? No, I didn't. What is going on? Is my IDE busted? Or is it me? It says here that the data type is weapon handler replicate data. Now, if we go to this, that's right here. We have these public fields. Just these three. I go over here and I do data dot action codes, which is like it has. Oh, are these like the recommendations for it? Okay, so I didn't know this about the IDE. These are either missing references or something. I don't know. I've never seen this icon before in Writer. Weird that is there. I think I busted Writer or something. I think it needs a little bit of a refresh. I'm gonna just try reopening it real quick. That's interesting. And it might be like that intentionally. I don't know. Oh, there's an update too. right now it's there. No, it's still showing the old stuff. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure. That one, I don't know. I've never seen that before. All right, so we're going to do if data.weapon_index does not equal unset weapon index. So, invalid weapon index. So I'm going to rename this to unset because all of my newer styles I use unset instead of invalid. Because unset might not necessarily be invalid. All right, so if it doesn't equals unset, we're going to call the animator controller. We're going to call set weapon index, and we're going to pass in the next weapon index. And this is only if we are not replaying. Again, I mentioned you don't want to do this during a replay. That's going to burden the animator, which is only visuals, and you really don't want to do that. It's going to slow down your performance. So we're also going to do if I don't actually have animations for firing, believe it or not. You can see the other player fire, you can see the recoil, you can see your own recoil, but it's all done by IK. So that makes things a little bit easier there. What else we got? Data dot. Okay, so we do need to do one for reload. I think we do anyway. Yes. There you go. So that updates the animators with reload and set weapon index. All right. There's no jump. There's no jump. This. So we need to do a fire check, but before we do a fire check, let's go ahead and build our reconcile data. Equals new weapon handler reconcile data. And what do I even have in here? Is it just the weapon index? So it's a current weapon index. And I'm just going to pass in the reconcile data. And weapon index equals RD dot. Well, this isn't next weapon index. This is just weapon index because it's sending data it knows to be true, not the current weapon index, not the desired next weapon index. So just can rename that to weapon index. It should be good. Set. All right. So one thing that this is probably a gotcha that might get a lot of people is we're setting the value weapon index, but what if you want to do some sort of operation when that changes? Right now, we're literally just changing the value and it's not doing anything. So like if you wanted to update the animator or something, you know, that's not going to happen. So the thing is, though, this is a reconcile. So let's say if you're 10 ticks ahead on the client and you change weapons, this weapon index is probably going to be different. And you don't necessarily want to update to the old one if you're going to ultimately be on the same one. So we're going to hold off on that. The only thing I see a potential issue with is that if we say reconcile and the weapon index is different than we expect and we do nothing about it, the player could be stuck on the wrong weapon index inside the replicate. So that we might have to think about that one. So we're gonna do. We're also gonna do another. Actually, this is perfect. We're gonna do if we're not if not replaying, then update the animator. I don't think I need a terrible amount of new code. So all I need to do here, actually, we can do if basically the weapon index is changing inside this input, then go ahead and update the controller. Sorry, I was buffering. Or we can do also if current weapon index doesn't equal I don't want to say the problem is basically right now we're only sending in the weapon index change whenever you're rather than the current weapon index. That's like really hard to compare against. It probably makes more sense to actually put in the weapon index. It's going to use a little bit more bandwidth because this is essentially saying only send the changes, whereas if we actually just pass in the current weapon index, then you're going to probably be sending a value no matter what. It is what it is, but realistically, this is a shooter and we want it to be as accurate as possible. So not really a big deal, honestly. So we're going to actually do if weapon index doesn't equal data.weapon index, update weapon index. So this is where we update. Remember all that code before I showed you is like equip weapon and all this. This is where we're going to actually do all that. And this will also work with corrections. So first thing we're going to do is, I don't even know if we need to update the animator controller in here, but we'll see. So we're going to come back to the firing like I said. I'm going to go down to the void equip. Maybe it's a boolean. Yeah, okay. Wow. A lot of code. All right, so I'm going to do this. Go down here, copy this, comment it out, and then I'm going to go up to my replicate. And by the way, I'm going to put this all in one section here in this one replicate method. I don't necessarily advise doing that. It's just to show you that everything is basically flowing inside the replicate. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just showing you it this way for that reason. All right, so we're going to do void equip weapon. And I'm going to put a little comment on here. Oh, I did have the private void part in there. I just didn't see it. Okay. So we're going to do void equip weapon. Equips the current weapon index. All right, so this is bad right here. Weapon isn't held. That's bad. That should never happen. Well, not only is this, I think this lowest and highest weapon index. That's not. All available weapons. This is not currently. I'm trying to think how to word this. All weapons available in game. Not. The client may not have access to all weapons. See each weapon if available. So when I say see each weapon if available, I'll show you what that means real quick. Should be able to just do something like this. Let's just do next weapon dot. I'm pretty sure I have like a is equipped or something. Yeah, there's like an add to inventory. So there's got to be like an option in here to show if it's equipped or not. Oh, here we go, in inventory. There you go. So this is basically weapon index does not exist in the game. This is kick worthy. So basically, if this happens, the client's trying to set a weapon to something that doesn't even exist in the game. That's a kick. That's a kick. that's a cheating attempt. There's nothing else about that. So we're gonna return no matter what because we don't want this to be, we don't want it to break. But we're also gonna do if base.is server initialized. We're gonna kick that client. So we're gonna do base.owner.kick. We're gonna use an exploit attempt, and we're gonna say connection base.owner.toString. This just does some output for you, like the IP and everything. If you're the server, and of course, clients don't have that information. Tried to change. What? Stop it. Type faster. To an invalid weapon index of index. This still needs to go down here. Did I miss a bracket? I missed something. Base.owner.kick. Exploit connect. Oh, I forgot. No, I didn't forget. What am I missing? I forget to close off I swear I'm like dyslexic or something. Because I break my IDE again. Is it struggling? What is going on? Let me try this. So the string is fine. Oh, it's a log. Okay, I didn't look at my parameters. That was. This should be. I don't remember what I used for exploit kicks for the logging. Let me just check because I have in other spots here in the code, like in the actual fishnet. Looks like I do use common. I believe I used common because I don't want it logging. I don't want it spamming if someone's trying to exploit, and then also logging that, like using errors and whatnot. Because what if you have to only log errors? You don't want clients exploiting your game and getting kicked for it, and also blowing up your logs at the same time. Realistically, though, if they're getting kicked, they're not going to be able to explode your logs. But yeah. All right, so like I said, this is bad. This doesn't exist. Next thing, if next weapon.in inventory. All right, weapon exists, but owner does not have it. So this is another situation to where this should never happen. The client should be in sync. I don't think I'm going to actually kick for this one because there might be some really weird situation where you think you pick up a weapon, but maybe someone else beat you to it and you try to use it and you don't have it. So I'm not going to kick for this one. I'm just going to do a return instead of actually giving them the weapon. All right. So cannot resolve symbol next weapon. Really? I think it just can't resolve this because yeah. I think I broke my IE. I think I broke it good. I'm gonna have to do the update after this. Or it could just be that there's so many errors that it's having like a panic attack. It can't function. So I don't know what's going on with it though. So let's see, we have the ignore active, where basically if it's currently already a weapon, we're not going to do anything based on it. We want to probably keep that in because we're going to be sending the weapon index every time. So I think what's supposed to happen here is this is just supposed to be weapon, current weapon. I might have accidentally pasted next weapon in there or something. So if to not ignore active, let's do I think that's fine. So basically it's saying if the weapon hasn't changed and it's the current weapon, we're just going to return. All right, so this is going to check if the current weapon is valid, and if so, it's going to unsubscribe from it. This is because we're switching weapons. We listen to weapon events as they're used, and we want to listen to only the latest weapon event. So that's what this is about. We're going to unsubscribe from the current weapon event. We're going to do if index is valid. So we can do this two ways, I suppose. This checks, returns if the current weapon index is valid. But also do if current weapon dot we're going to do if current weapon doesn't equal null, which I don't think it would ever equal null, but it does not. We're going to do unsubscribe from its events. Then we're going to subscribe to the new weapon, which we know exists because we got it there. We're going to update the weapon index to the latest index that was passed in. And we're going to update the last fire tick so that basically you can't fire until this weapon is fully equipped. And we're going to basically, we're going to get the local tick, and then we're going to add on the equip delay. And we're going to set the weapon to equipped immediately for the next one. And then we're going to set it to unequipped on the old one. It can technically be equipped, but not actually like fully completing the equip delay. Just keep that in mind. So like if I'm switching to my M4 or whatever, and I haven't brought the weapon up all the way to where I can fire it, it's still technically equipped. It's just not ready to fire yet. We're going to set equipped on those immediately. So I'm going to actually, when I unsubscribe, I'm going to also go down here and set it unequipped as well. Hey, thanks. Hopefully I'm explaining this stuff well enough. I know it's kind of complex, but yeah. So the return network roles is not needed anymore. I talked about this in one of the earlier streams. I'll cover it again real quick. Basically, the network roles is an enum that says if your client, owner, server, or maybe owner, or client and server, and so on. The reasons I had this is because I originally made this asset for Mirror, and Mirror doesn't support child network behaviors. Maybe they do now. I think they did add it in like a couple months ago, but it took them years, like 3+ years to add it in, even though I gave them the code to add it in like 3 years ago. And it took them that long to add it in, and it was just like one simple code change. But anyway, that's my rant. That's why I stopped using mirrors. It was just like they were so reluctant to improve. But anyway, they were mono behaviors, so I didn't, because they were nested objects, and I had no way to tell their network roles on those mono behaviors, so I had to pass it in. Don't need that anymore. Let's go back up to my replicate. Yeah, I've done a couple projects on Mirror. That's why I left Mirror though. It just wasn't really doing it for me. I also, it wasn't just that too though. Like I started doing tutorials for Mirror as well. And I think I was like one of the first people to actually do. I don't want to say one of the first people to do tutorials, but my channel was probably the only YouTube channel that actually had like a running series of Mirror videos instead of just like 1 or 2 videos that didn't really cover much. But they always did updates, and that always broke my tutorials. And I had assets too that I was selling for Mirror, and they always broke my assets. So that was another reason I just left too. It was just like, this is annoying. I need a more stable framework. All right, so we're gonna do, now that I can change that to a network behavior, I can do base, but is owner. Simple as that. No need for anything else. I think I don't know why I'm changing it for both. I feel like it only needs to be one or the other. I don't know why I'm changing it for both. Show slide if third person model is right weapon. Show / hide first and third person. Oh, so it looks like I am intentionally doing it for both. I don't know why I'm doing it for both. I have a feeling this is probably something I ran into later. Oh, I know why now. This makes sense. I'm going to update these comments to be more thorough. Let me just go ahead and delete this real quick. Like I said, this project's old, so. Third person. Okay, let's do this. First person animator or model must be updated for the owner. Third person should also be updated for the owner, because when the owner dies, the third person model becomes visible to them, and we want that model to be holding the right weapon. Then we need one more thing here. Only owner needs to update the first person model. Okay, so it is better to add in the boolean here. Here we go. I could probably put these both under this one bracket, but like, this is better code organization. Yeah, I don't understand why they limited it to one broadcast. Although admittedly, like, one object can subscribe to one broadcast. Admittedly, though, it is a little more difficult than I anticipated when I made it on mine that multiple can subscribe to the same broadcast. Yeah. It wasn't like terribly complex. It just wasn't like, oh, change 1 or 2 lines, you know. It was actually closer to change like 4 lines. Really it was. It wasn't really about the lines being changed, though. It was more about the fact that the changes initially were a little, I don't want to say like expensive, but what happened is for every object that was receiving the broadcast, would have to deserialize the same context. So let's see if the broadcast has like a string or whatever. for every object you had that needed to use that string from that broadcast, it would bump the reader back and then read the string and send it to the next message. So it wasn't like extra bandwidth, but it was extra perf on the client because it had to read the broadcast from the serializer again. That was the quick and dirty way to do it, but then I eventually optimized it to where it only deserialized it once and just sent it out. That was changed a really long time ago. But yeah. Alright, so set equip, no longer need that. Like a row. Is that like SQL talk or something? We don't allow SQL talk back in here. I hate working with backend stuff. Alright, so an animator. Didn't I already update the animator? Yeah, so I actually did update the animator here, but I don't need to do it here. I'm going to, instead I'm going to call equip weapon, and this is basically calling the method that we just, what we're working on now. We got a little sidetrack there. Ignore active, false. I'm going to make this not optional. This might have to be its own method later. I'm not sure. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't think it's needed. Because whenever you die, you should unequip all weapons and it should be unset. So you should never have, you should never be able to try and equip the weapon that you already have. I feel like my brain was running through scenarios and I feel like I might be missing something, but we'll have to see. Okay, so we're setting equipped. If we are the owner, I don't think this is needed anymore. Pretty sure it's not needed anymore. Equip next weapon and update the animator. I haven't messed around with it. I mean, I've worked with a newbie is the one that maintains it, and they've asked for optimizations in Fishnet for their framework specifically, and I put them in. I haven't used it myself, but I've looked at the code briefly at times, and a lot of it is how I would code. Like it looked good to me. My understanding is it's a pretty good framework. Like it does a lot, and I know he's been putting a lot of time into it, and I do my best to I work with him directly. Basically, if he has issues with Fishnet, like something with his framework, I'll work with him in fixing it because one, that's better for Fishnet, and two, it's better for his project, and I really want to see his project excel because he's put a lot of time in it and it looks really good. Yeah, that's I don't. You probably weren't here for the beginning of the stream, but I said that something about optimizations and I don't remember exactly what it was. Something about how we try to add in optimizations where we can, and he's contributed quite a few optimizations. Well, he basically gave me ideas to improve them. He's like, hey, it'd be really good if the API could do this. That would be a big perf improvement. And he was right, of course. So we put those in. But yeah, as I was saying, it's basically using Fishnet inside big projects and supporting, keeping those projects always on the latest up-to-date version. Helps with testing, but it also really improves the quality of the product in general. All right, so we're not going to do a reload unless the weapon index is valid. We're gonna do if weapon dot. That's not. I have an in inventory, and I don't think I have it is equipped. Also, I feel like if we're equipping a weapon, we should cancel reload. So I actually am going to change this to a boolean here and return false. I'm trying to just, like I said, think ahead here. So we don't really want to do a reload if the weapon is just being equipped. It's going to take a second for it to equip and all that stuff. I don't know, do we want to allow a reload, like as soon as you equip the weapon before it actually pulls up? I feel like you might want to allow that. Like, that'd be super annoying if you had to pull the weapon up and then also wait for the reload. That I don't think shooters work like that typically. So I'm gonna actually just leave this as it is, and I'm going to allow the reload as long as the current weapon is valid. All right. So this checks to see if the weapon index changed. We're going to call equipped on it. First, I'm going to add a quick exit here. I'm going to do a if weapon index equals data.weapon index return quick exit if already selected. That's kind of what this is as well. No, sorry. This is what this is as well. We don't really need that anymore. And get rid of that. All right, so what we have here right now is if not replaying, try to equip the current weapon. All that here just tries to equip it, and it invokes the unequipped, etc. Updates the IK weight and whatnot. Probably do this to is client initialized. Started means that the client is running. Initialized mean that this particular object is initialized for the client over the network, meaning they can access network features. The only other thing now is the firing. So it looks like all this stuff might only be used if not replaying. So I'm just going to do if is replaying return. Currently, none of the logic is run if replaying. This is you'll see this occasionally. I'll put stuff in the multi-line comments if it's a little bit more important. That's just my way of kind of saying, hey, look at this. All right, because nested if statements is annoying. They're so annoying sometimes. It can be hard to follow. All right, so first we're gonna try and guess we don't want to continue if the data is not created either. Do not perform actions if the data is not created by the server / client. Saying is created is essentially saying the data came from the client or server. If is created is false, and that means it's essentially predicted input, meaning either they didn't send the data because they don't have any data to send, or like the packet dropped or something. This is basically saying only run if we know the the data here is, you know, something they intended to send. I'm going to make a quick backup of this because I've done a bit of work. Where are you? There we go. I think I labeled the last one as a stream. Kind of. Weapon handler work in progress. There's way too many changes to really note. Notes aren't going to be really meaningful in this commit because it's a big work in progress. All right, so let's see. Now we have, of course, the fire time. I think that's the only other thing left in the data. So we handled the reload, we handled the weapon index, we have not handled the fire tick. So let me go down and see what all of these errors are real quick. Subscribe to weapon events. That's just, like I said, whenever you fire a weapon, no changes, etc. We're going to subscribe to those. This is for, well, this isn't for the UI because this code is not part of the UI, but the UI uses these as well. This is something from the server. It comes in as an RPC. That's going to have to be changed. This is basically saying, oh no, sorry. This is received on the server when the callback occurs for a reload. And then I believe that is sent out to the client. Yes. Received on server after a reload has finished in full. Well, what the hell's the difference? Something doesn't seem. I feel like this is like a chain event from this. And this is what sends it out to the client. I don't need that anymore, honestly, but I'm not going to just rip it out right now. So return weapon index, I'm pretty sure that's used. Yep. We're going to be dropping all the RPCs, or at least try to. I'm not working on this right now. This is called whenever an instantiation is required for the weapon instead of just like raycast. So this is probably going to get changed as well. Most likely going to use predictive spawning of some sort. This appears to just be a relay. So this is probably what the UI probably listens to this event inside the weapon handler instead of subscribing to every single weapon. The weapon handler is basically like, hey, this is all of our weapons. This is the current weapon. And here's the events coming from the current weapon. So if you only care about what's coming from the current weapon, that's what the weapon handler is for. That looks like that's exactly what's going on here. Okay, so we have if out ammo and cannot equip empty, then remove from inventory. Basically, primary example, grenades. If you have no more grenades left, it's going to remove it from your inventory. You're not going to see it on top as something you have. Well, we don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of that. Reload. Okay. Get rid of that. About to head down a rabbit hole here. So, start reload animation if client. Only show reload animation if client. And I should probably just use if base.isClient only started. So I told you the difference between started and initialized. Started means the client is started. Initialized means this particular object is network initialized for the client. The reason I'm not using is client only initialized is because let's say your client host and the server deinitializes the object first and it's going to deinitialize on the client afterwards. Actually, it might be the other way around. I do believe it's server first. You know, I'd have to look at my own documentation, as embarrassing as it is. I'm fairly sure. Let's just look. Give me 1 second. Pull that up. So this might actually be good to update. Pretty sure though it should be on start server, on ownership server, on spawn server, and then it jumps over to on start client, on ownership client, and then you should see on stop client, and then on stop server, I believe. That needs to be updated, because if I am not 100% sure, then there's probably other people that are not 100% sure. See the callback section. More information. I didn't write this guide. This is a really good guide. I'm just saying I didn't write it. Anyway, that needs to get updated. So we're basically gonna say if client only initialized or started, sorry, then we're gonna do the reload. We don't want to reload if the server is started at all. Or we don't want to do the animation, I should. Is this used? It is used. Okay. So this is called an equipped weapon, where before we are just trying to set the we're going to set it inside the pulled inputs instead. And you do the same thing with this. Just going to rename it for consistency. That's okay. All right, so some of those errors are gone. Before it was equipped in the weapon right away. This is checked and update, and now instead we're actually checking, we're basically setting the next weapon we'd like to switch to, and then that's going to run in replicate, so we're going to keep it aligned with the replicate system. All right, reload weapon. Next fire time to equip time. So, looks like I used the equip delay plus the reload duration. Why do that? Why don't I just use the reload duration? Oh, you know what? I think I know why. I think in the animator, when you reload, it shows the unequipped animation and then like basically re-equips it with the reload. Yeah, so I think it shows. I think it begins the reload animation, and after that completes, it shows the equipped delay, the equipped animation. That's why it has both. Let me just update this real quick. Next fire time should be set to reload duration as well equip delay. This is because we must wait for the reload. No, that's just This is because when a reload occurs, the weapon animation runs the equip animation after the reload completes. Therefore, the delay must include the reload animation duration as well, equip delay, which I feel like these should be the same, like equip delay and reload delay, etc. What is this? Or not. I don't want to. I do know we don't need the network roles anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that. Oh my god. This is definitely some of my earlier work. Alright. Boolean is server only equals, is firearm a weapon, which a weapon is a network behavior, right? Yes, okay. So server only is so simple. You just do base is server only started, and owner is also simple. Base dot is owner. All right. Don't need this allocation anymore. We'll do base dot is server initialized. Cool. All right, so that was pretty easy to fix. Again, we don't need the network roles. I just totally like sidetracked. I don't know what all this is for. I forgot I even had this in there. This is bullet pass by. So basically, if I think it's what it says. If a bullet flies by you close enough, you'll hear it like whiz by. I totally forgot I had that in there. Yeah, so this is probably going to need a little bit of work. I don't know why the enumerator is in there. I'm probably going to change that to use ticks, most likely. Let's see. Hey, less errors. That's nice. Why data for authoritative movement on cloud? What is this even used for? Oh, inputs which have to be sent to a server and not yet return inputs. What? I don't know if this is used. It says it's not. I'm going to delete this. Client motor data. I think this is code that is no longer required. The motor is pretty much complete. So like, if that's not used, it's probably not used. Okay, so we got less errors. Yes. Oh, there's a server motor data too, which is also not used. This is all stuff from prediction 1. Like I said, it's been drastically simplified in prediction 2, which has been out for a while now. All right, more network role things we can get rid of. Yes, I love deleting code that we don't need. My favorite thing. Less is more. If base dot is server initialized. Looks like this is the stuff I was talking about where it shows like calls reload complete and whatnot. That's almost definitely going to change. Where is it getting it? Oh, yeah. Okay. That's not used anymore. All right, is server only equals base dot is server only started. Owner equals base dot is owner. You see how much easier it is? This is what I was talking about with the network rules and whatnot. All this freaking headache from the network rules, all because Mirror would not put in nested network behaviors. Driving me freaking nuts, man. That bothered me for so long. All right, so if fire audio prefab does not equal null, and if we're not the server, so we're gonna add a quick check. We're gonna do if server only, then exit. Server does not need to play fire audio. That will do if. Okay, so we're gonna do here if base dot is owner. This is just showing where to spawn the audio. If you're the owner, it spawns it on the first person camera. If you're not the owner, it spawns it on the player firing, of course. We want to spawn it on the camera versus the player firing, because even if like your player object is right by the camera, we want it dead center to the camera, so like the left and right audio, fits properly. Okay, more network rule stuff. Probably going to pack this up here pretty soon. Got rid of a lot of the errors. Probably doesn't mean it's working. It just means that I deleted enough code. Oh no. As I was saying, doesn't mean it's working with the errors gone. Just means I deleted enough code to where they're not there. But there are still a lot of errors. So let me just delete all of the simple stuff real quick. Okay. That I'm not going to be able to. This isn't needed anymore. This is the server telling the client to equip the weapon when it changes on the server. The prediction one didn't have state forwarding, so you couldn't run the same code as the server/owner on spectators. Now you can. It's not needed anymore. Get rid of that. I don't know what that implies just yet, but we'll get rid of it. Select first valid weapon. I don't think any of this is needed anymore. Delete. Delete. What? Okay, so let's just set the weapon is not equipped. What else we got? What else can I delete? Give me code to delete. Hungry. Love deleting code. Okay, let's see. What is even this? Oh, that's one I commented out. I don't need this anymore. That's not as satisfying because that didn't have any errors. It was already commented out. Next fire time is going to have to change. That's a little different now. This isn't used anymore. Not used anymore. Not used, but I need to have something for this. So I need to add in like to-dos before I get too carried away. Select first weapon needs to be handled somewhere in the replicate system or replicate method. Where were we? Trying to find the error I just add weapon reserve. I don't even know what that means. I think that I don't know what that means, man. Let me undo this. Okay, now I recall. Reload failure needs to be reconciled / handled, and reconcile as well, potentially replicate. All right, so we got on tick. Well, we're not calling the replicate and reconcile when we should be, so we're just gonna complete on tick to call replicate / reconcile. What else we got? If client, what is this for? This is for when initializing. I'm going to keep that there just so I know to set the first weapon when it initializes for the client. Received after a client has its player instantiated. What are you trying to suggest to me? Oh, it is for its, yeah, that's correct. Okay. We don't need to target spectate anymore. I think what's going on here is, I think I know what's going on. Weapon adds / removes need to run through the replicate system. That's what this stuff is that we're seeing here. I'm just double checking all this just to be sure. Yeah, so this is just adding it to the inventory. This is going to change. I said we're not going to be using the observer system at all. We're going to be switching this to the replicate inside the prediction system and whatnot. So we're going to get rid of this stuff. Remove weapon from inventory. This is not used anymore. Oh, there's a can reload weapon. Probably important to have before trying to reload. So let's go to the replicate real quick. I was talking about this earlier where I was like, okay, like I need to make sure the reload can occur on the weapon, make sure it's valid and whatnot. And I don't know if you're here, whoever wasn't here for stream, I was kind of like something is missing. Like it just doesn't feel like it's complete. It was missing this. Hey, what's up? Okay, so this is no longer a thing. Well, I had to keep this in because this is where it's actually trying to add it. This is probably not right. This isn't needed anymore because we're not using an RPC system anymore for this, but the other bit is. Don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. This it must be used because yeah. Let's go back down. This has changed. We're using next fire tick now. We're not checking time anymore. Same with here. What is this? It has 4 arguments. Not anymore. I'm gonna keep this in here just so I can see like the code so I can reference it later. Reload. Gonna keep that in there. This is to see if it can reload. It's basically checking for input, checking for weapon switch, etc. So let's go back to the void replicate and wrap up one more thing before I forget here. We're gonna go down to if data and can reload weapon. We're gonna call. We're just gonna call reload. It was just called reload, wasn't it? Something about client reload. Oh yeah, that fire thing isn't gonna be there anymore either. I'll reload weapon. I don't know if I actually need to call it reload weapon, but anyway. That's not needed anymore. Oh, you know, I should probably keep this code in before I go deleting it just so I can reference it and see what it's doing beforehand. So let's go back to the void replicate. And if data reload and can weapon reload, I'm going to call reload. I might be able to just put all of this inside there. Like if client only, oh, see I have, okay, so yeah. This says only show reload animation if client, but this is showing if client only started. It should just be if client is client started. So that means the reload wouldn't show if you were client host, which is not what we want. I feel like, well, that sucks. Like I said, I'm trying to keep everything inside the one method so you can follow it. I'm gonna just All right, so what's going on here is it basically changed it. I moved, this used to just be checks if you could reload. Now it runs the checks and it reloads if possible. I just basically consolidated that code. Also deleted some code, which is nice. I think this is a fairly okay stopping point. It's still very much in need of work. I'm actually kind of surprised that the weapon handler is requiring more work than the motor. I should say more network work. So let's see, is server only started and owner is okay. What is it? Oh, the goats. The goats. I don't know why that's done in fixed update. I guess it doesn't really matter. So this is an issue I'm going to have to deal with later. This is not efficient. At the time, how this worked, it was efficient, but not now. I know I said I was about to like stop, but I want to get done some of these before I don't want to forget about them basically. What is this even for? Okay. I am a little concerned about the way this is. I don't know why. Oh, this is just for the canvas. That makes more sense. I was trying to figure out why this is like manually calling events like this. That's not something I usually do. But I see now it's because the events probably already have fired and it's just trying to update the canvas in relation to them. That's all right. That'll fly. All right, let's do it back up. All right. I think I missed the. I don't think I pushed using the stream number. That's okay. For 02, I mean. I don't even know where to begin for the notes. There's so much done. All right, so like that's gonna be it for today. I've been at this for about an hour and a half. That's why I usually like to keep my streams around an hour, or start packing up around an hour because of some reason I get carried away and continue coding for another 30 to 60 minutes. But that's gonna be it for today on this stream. Thanks everybody for watching. Not already on our Discord, you could find a link in the video description and so on. And I'll be around later today, so if you have questions about the stream or whatever, just feel free to ping me. But thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.